Hi, everyone. I'm sorry we had a glitch. I think I pressed the wrong button. I lost you all. I'm glad you're all back on. Might take a few seconds for people to realise we're actually on air, so we'll just wait a second. I think is it 10:45 yet?
Yep.
Okay, we should be all right. People are starting to join us. Again, I'm sorry. I must apologise to everybody. I lost a few. We had to basically cancel the talk, and that's been a bit annoying, but we're all here now. And I'm very grateful to have three lovely people. Pretty Apala in the top corner there. Say hello.
Hi, namaste everyone.
Okay. Chris Vernon there.
Morning.
And David Graveney, who I'm very happy to connect with. And you got my second email, which is very good.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody.
I've had a particularly amazing day. It has rained in Sydney like never before. There are fountains and rain waterfalls in places in Sydney that haven't been waterfalls before. The streets are so flooded, you don't know where a lake starts or a street starts. I made my way to, of all places, Mossman Rowers Club, which we were trapped and we were surrounded by water. I had three lovely friends there, and I got bored, so we did a video. And it's about, I'm not sure they saw it, and they gave their opinions on the whole thing. Ray wants to know what happened. I think I went on mute for some reason. The other guys couldn't hear me. Then I tried all the buttons, and one led to a delete button, which was my mistake. I'm on an iPhone, which unfortunately, guys, it happens. But luckily, we can rectify it pretty quickly, and that's the beauty of these things, I guess. And I'm sorry if I may have appeared a bit gruff, guys, but I was a bit hysterical there for a minute. All right, we've got, I think, I'm going to blame Apana, because when that all happened, she actually rang on the phone that the thing is on. I think maybe when she rang, it might have muted my coverage, and then that happened, which is no one's fault, but it can happen. That's the beauty of having two phones. So I quickly fired up the other one. So again, don't take me personally if I ran and raved. All right, we're here now. We have an incredible match ahead of us, haven't we? We've got a true final, a so-called rehearsal of a World Cup final on deck. We're likely, as we've said all series, this could be a series of England versus India in the World Cup final. And these two guys, two teams, had a great hit out. And I think, David, your prediction, you said, didn't come to fruition?
Well, yeah, it was heading in that direction, because I suspect, I haven't got the stats, Chris might be able to find this out. I've always perceived Owen Morgan to be not only an outstanding captain player, but he also is the luckiest captain of all time, because he wins the toss more often than loses it. And this series, I could see, certainly in the first three games, it was drawing the conclusion that you win the toss, and if you can field first, it would be perceived to be an advantage. And a lot of things are said about having an advantage, but you've still got to take it. It's not just given to you. So actually, even in game 4, England were in a position to win, which they let it slip through their hands, basically. So that was the justification for 4-1.
So what was your prediction again? It was 4-1, wasn't it?
4-1, yes.
Right, okay. Chris's prediction was 17-0, was it? Or
that was yours, Norman. I've been pretty good, actually. I said 3-2 either way at the start of the series.
That's not a prediction. That's sitting on the fence.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I said I thought it would go 3-2, which I'm going to be reasonably spot on. So, I don't think there's much between the sides at all. And I think the one-day series, depending on who gets rested and rotated for England, there's, as I said, I don't know how true it is, but there's truth that Jofra Archer might go home for the series. So he's obviously a big X-factor player.
Are they all day games, Chris?
I think in Pune, 2 of them are day nights, and the last one's a day game. I think I saw yesterday somewhere.
This is the ODIs we're talking about specifically.
Yeah.
Okay. And I saw that the Indian team has announced their squad, but not the. Oh, that's right. Indian team's been announced, but the England team hasn't yet. Is that right, Chris?
No, I haven't seen anything yet. So, they must do it soon, because it can't be too far away. It can only be 3 or 4 days away. So I assume that the majority of the squad will be currently playing in India. I'd assume. I'm guessing that they're not going to bring many people in. And those that are being
when they announced the squads, Chris, in the UK, they did announce both squads together. So they could work out who was going to be in the bio bubble and who went home. And
I thought that, but well, maybe it's the same squad then, because I haven't seen a separate squad announcement. So maybe they're just going with the same. But there's people like Chris Wokes who I would assume would be playing in the one-day stuff, and David William.
Does Joe Root come back for that or not, or is he just?
I don't know. I've not seen anything talked about. So.
Well, this is where look. The likelihood is, I guess we're forgetting the fact that they're a touring team. And it's quite likely the T20/ODI squad, which must be slightly larger in number, is what they've picked from.
Well, if you're playing play, rest, play, I don't understand why they did that, Norman, because they weren't having to travel. That is still quite a hefty workload. So you've got to be able to carry enough reserves that you're covering every spot. Not every spot, sorry, every skill. That doesn't necessarily you're going to pick another 11 players, but you're not disadvantaged if a seamer goes down, or they're not disadvantaged with wicket keepers because every other person is a wicket keeper in the England squads.
Yeah. So effectively, well, it makes a lot of sense that they didn't necessarily need to actually have a new squad announced when they had an existing greater squad. That's probably what it is. The only disappointment, I think, is that Joe Root's not in either squad, so he must have made an early decision not to be in either of the teams.
Well, because he played in Sri Lanka and India in terms of test matches, he's probably spent more time in the middle than anybody else on either side or sort of opposition in England. Again, normally before he left, he had a new addition to the family. Just let him go home. Yeah,
I love the way you say new addition to the family. We've given birth to players.
Yeah.
I mean, you could argue that's the way that it was amazing. These people I spoke to earlier today, Paul and Sam Carter and a guy called Pat, as well as Tom, they were people who were Australians. And they made a very strong point about the way that Kohli went off to obviously help give birth to the process of his wife's daughter. But it actually he left behind a bunch of boys that became men. And I thought that was a very apt way of describing the way that the so-called Indian team have gone throughout the Australian series and now into the current series. What do you think?
Well, I think they found a new captain within the Indian ranks who does it a slightly different way. Rahana looks to be quite a gentle, sort of not quite as noisy, not quite as demonstrative. And I think if you're a younger person in the team, then I think it's just creating the right atmosphere to play. And I'm sure that after Adelaide, that the management, Ravi and whoever's involved would have just said to them, just go out and enjoy yourself, just express yourself. Don't create any more pressure than actually there is anyway. So and they responded to that. So and I'm sure subconsciously Australia would have been, well, we're just bottom out for 39. They're by the counts, their best players now gone as well. Yeah. So this should be quite easy to win. But actually, they found some resistance.
It was off, wasn't it? I think they probably said as far as India were concerned with that side, Australia, they probably had the attitude we're expected to get hammered here. We're expected to lose 4-0. We're not anything that we don't get absolutely destroyed in by this Australia side, which records and history would suggest that most sides do, is a bonus. And I don't think they would have sat there thinking that we're going to lose, but expectation, probably even in India, was they're going to lose the series, and probably if they have some young guys that poke their heads up and show a bit of resolve, then it's a win-win. So to go and win the series was staggering, really. But
they're not only losing Kohli, Chris, but they lost Jadeja, they lost the opening bowlers.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So they were having to fill in really across the board. So it really was a free opportunity for young guys to basically put their hand up, which was great.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, they've taken that attitude into the T20s, haven't they? With the fact that we've got Ishan Kishan and the likes of Sky, the other also in that nothing to lose mentality.
Well, I think there would have been that mentality anyway. I've seen those guys play for a number of years in the IPL. Like, there's just no fear in the young guys these days. Like, those guys aren't coming in through injuries, really. India have apart from maybe Boomer and Jadeja, have got pretty much a full squad to pick from batting wise. You know, Sky and Kishan are there on merit, not on injuries, if that makes sense. You know, there's no one that I can think of that isn't in that Indian squad that would be there anyway. They're not like left row hit out or Kohli's not injured, so those guys are there purely on merit, and rightly so. You know, they've been consistently two of the best in the IPL for a number of years, and they're proving it on the biggest stage.
But I do think when I went to India the last time, Chris, that and Rao Dravid was explaining to me the structure of because sort of I was at that stage responsible for the academies in the UK. There's actually all the franchises for the IPL teams were now gathering together young players, bringing them into an elite environment, teaching them actually in terms of how important diet was, training was. Though they didn't actually play in the main teams, they were, you know, in the right sort of environment that would create for young people. Yeah, this is something I want to do, and this is how I'm going to do it. So it comes as no surprise that a lot of the guys well, not a lot of them, but Pant and the opening batsman both played in the Indian under-19 team in Bangladesh. Three years ago, or 3 World Cups ago. The last one was South Africa, the one before was in New Zealand, and the one before that was in Bangladesh, and they all played in that tournament. And they do approach the World Cups at under-19 level with a culture of, you know, we need to win the tournament. You know, winning is not a thing to be despised or anything. It is a healthy attitude to have. You know, that actually you learn how to win, because when these games are tight, T20, you've got to be able to win the tight games. And England have made a lifetime's hobby of losing tight games.
Well, up to recently.
So having Owen Morgan involved, understanding actually the guys who come in from 8, 9, 10, 11, like in the last game, can really win the game from a seemingly impossible position.
Yeah. It's just as an aside, just to let you know, we've got a red button there for James Dean. We have, and I think I've explained it maybe not necessarily to David, but we have our normal subscription to the channel. You subscribe. Right. I've introduced a membership where people in the future will be able to have more personalised chats. They'll be able to be given questions first, and a whole bunch of other things depending on their level. And in fact, they'll be able to, when we have dinners, which we're planning on coming to visit you, David, in England in the near future. And if we do, we'll have organised a substantial dinner. And
we're not in England, are we, David? We're not. We live in Ireland.
Is that right?
Will be.
Well, I've already got a sticker attached to your car, Chris, which is like what do they call them, one of those trackers, and we'll know where you are at all times.
I'm sure.
No,
don't give it to the fan club.
Yeah. By the way, David, Chris there's a Chris fan club, which is somewhat interesting, and there are members of that fan club. But James Dean has a red sticker. It's called a super sticker. It's another thing. So you've got so-called subscribers, which is at no cost. Membership is a cost, so you get certain privileges. And a super sticker is you can throw it in there to be seen on the report as the red is, and James Dean gets a mention that way. And that's another thing you can for $1 or something. So it's $1.99. So that's another part. We've got another viewer there, cricket view and review pundit. You actually started to talk, Chris, about please reply to me. What is your opinion on Joe Root in ODI series? We kind of touched on that, but do you think he should be there?
Yeah, I think that he's a very fine player. I don't know what the thinking is. It might be that it's his rest and rotation period. You know, there's so much cricket this year with the India Test series and the Ashes and everything that, you know, he's going to be expected as captain to play pretty much every game. So as Grab said, you know, new baby, young family, you know, he's my age, he's 28, 29. I think they just see it as a mentally good thing to get back and see, you know, if you've got a young baby that, you know, is 6 months old, you know, it's probably quite a difficult thing to be away for a number of months. So I think mentally it might just be his rest and time, as they've all got designated times that they're off. So that might be the reason that he's not there at the moment. But I would have him in my one-day squad for sure if he was if he was available.
Yeah, I'm sure he would be. But what was he going to do between the end of the Test series and the beginning of a 50-over tournament? You know, sort of.
Yeah.
He's been in the subcontinent for quite a long time. So.
Yeah. No, definitely.
So where is Joe Root now? Is he in India or is he back in England?
I'm not sure, actually.
No clue.
Or is he holidaying in the Bahamas? I'm not sure where he is.
No.
He'll be up in Yorkshire somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah, he'll be somewhere. He'll be in Sheffield, I think that's where he lives.
But no, I'm more curious to the fact that I haven't seen any evidence in the English press of a arrival of Joe Root or a scene.
Yeah, and they would have said that, Norman, because they would have had to go into quarantine.
Exactly.
They wouldn't have been able to sort of, dress them up in disguised clothing and get them into the country that way.
I guess in a normal year, without quarantine, it would be much easier to fly in and fly back. Whereas, with Kohli in Australia, Kohli would have only missed, I think, one test in the Australia series. But by the time he'd gone home to come back and do 14 days quarantine, he would have missed the next few tests. So I think that it's just a weird time of the year. And, Joe would have been away from home for 3 or 4 months. And I don't think he would have wanted to sit there if he wasn't going to play in the T20 and just watch. So I think that it's probably, as we said, probably a pre-agreed rest and recuperation time, and I'm sure he's happy to have had it.
Just a quick shout out to official Sai. He's saying hello. Angel Ingle. Wow, David. I think Angel has done a bit of homework on you. He's gone to quick info and he's found your age. We won't mention it, but I think he's mentioned it. Garrett Bankers, India was not expected to lose, even without Kohli. India was number 2 team. Kohli hasn't been in a great form in the last couple of years. Last time India won without Kohli doing actually much. Well, that may well be the case, but I think his last few performances have been sensational for their team. I think he's well and surely needed. Ronak 98, 5 overseas will be allowed in next year's IPL 2022. That's interesting.
What is it now?
I hadn't heard that.
Okay.
Norman, is it 7 players in this tournament? Chris, do you know whether it's 7 or 5?
What, overseas?
Yeah.
I think you can have 8 in a squad or 7 in a squad, but only 4 can play in a game. So maybe whoever
is
said
that
it.
What they're increasing it from 4 to 5?
I don't know. I hadn't heard that, but if that's what they're doing, that's what they're doing. Which would be a shame. I know for the cricket perspective, it's good, but it's good to see the Indian. Ultimately, it's an Indian tournament, and if they're doing it the only reason they can be doing that is from a money perspective. So if it takes away a young Indian's chance of impressing, then you only have to look at the likes of KL Rahul, Ishan Kishan, Sky Yadav, Deepak Chahar, Rahul Sharma, Shardul Thakur, Washington Sundar. You could literally name every single Indian guy at the moment in that team or squad that have made a name for themselves in the IPL before coming into the Test side. Probably only Kohli and maybe Rohit Sharma. Everyone else has come through the ranks in the IPL, so it would be a shame if one of those guys misses out in the future because of an extra overseas.
Yeah, I would say it's a bit of a strange decision, really, because there's quite a lot of leading players who are, for whatever reason, making themselves unavailable to play in the IPL from time to time. And there's no doubt that actually Indian cricket has, and it's an inspiration for every young Indian player to play in the IPL. So I don't quite see it. Pressy, do you know what the logic for that would be?
Music Harmony said next year there's 10 teams in the IPL. So 2 new teams are added. So the Indian players will still get the equal opportunities. So I think it's just to maintain the quality of the tournament to allow 5 overseas. So that makes more sense.
They spread it around a little bit, change the structure.
Well, they've had a great, 14 years of this tournament. And I think they've been so successful. They probably needed a bit of a revamp of it, and that's fair enough. And COVID hasn't helped. So, by the way, I'm just checking the other live video. There are people still watching that video, waiting for something magical to happen. So I've just had to quickly message them and say, "Hey guys, come over here." Quite funny. I personally have been commenting relentlessly, thinking, "I can't hear you. You're not moving." It's quite cute. But the irony is both, I actually, would you believe, in that short amount of time, typed everything in, added pictures, everything all at once. I'm getting good at it. So I did all that really quickly. Otherwise, I wouldn't have. Yeah. All right. So we are digressing to the IPL. I'm aware that both David and Chris are leaving at a certain time. Apang is trying to get on after she rang earlier, so I'm not sure where she is, but she'll be coming on. The two Sri Lankan ladies has passed their bedtime. But we mustn't forget, we have to announce to everyone publicly, if they don't know, it was Simon Willis's birthday yesterday, correct? And not today.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're worried about mentioning my age. He's seriously old, Norman.
Yeah.
What, me?
No.
We know you're old, Norman.
Simon Willis is old.
He's 47.
Yeah, I know. I thought he only just retired a few years ago. So. No, I'm only joking.
But I know you are. David's actually 32, but he's had a very, very hard life.
No, the other way round, actually. I'm much older than that.
Oh, we're 23.
Yeah, well, after watched the races for the last 4 days, I've aged a lot. So.
Look, we're very glad to have you here, David. And Adam tried to be here as well, but he has 3 prize boxers fighting tonight, and he's in amongst those, the martial arts and boxers.
Is he coached them now?
Yeah.
Does he? Oh, does he?
Yeah. I think they're in his stable. I think he's actually got a boxing academy stable, whatever the term is, and he actually brings them on, which is quite a clever business.
Yeah.
He's very
No, that's good. You ought to do some writing, Norman. Sadly, we've lost a number of people that we both knew, and some of the words that he's put on Facebook in memory of guys he used to play with are just extraordinary pieces of literature, really. Not literature.
Oh, Adam's he's quite amazing, isn't he?
No, he was, and the last time we were on, we didn't have. I wanted to talk and make reference to his short Test career because I had the privilege of giving him his first cap together with his brother, because that doesn't normally happen ever. And he played his part in the one dayers. He was definitely the white ball cricketer, but he went to the West Indies and he dislocated his shoulder in a practice match, and just continued to play, which had some serious effect on his bowling from that day onwards, actually. And such as his, commitment, bravery.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Because the partner's ranks.
Yeah, he was a remarkable person to work with, I would have to say. He was up there in the Owen Morgan type of captaincy.
It's kind of a bit before, looking back, he was probably a cricketer that, and I'm sure he wouldn't say it, but, from my perspective, I sort of, when I was growing up, he was sort of in his part of his career. I read deep down he wishes, if I was 15 years younger, I bet if he was playing now with the IPL and all the 2020 comps, he was a fairly destructive sort of all-rounder, wasn't he? He would have been making it would have been his sort of suited his game, wouldn't it, Grav, playing in the IPL and the T20s?
It's very interesting, Chris, how people term those types of players, because they if you're not doing very well, they describe them as bits and pieces players. If you're winning, they describe them as all-rounders.
Yeah.
And actually, we won a tournament in Sharjah where Pakistan, India, West Indies and us were playing in, and we went with all-rounders, and there was an article in the Cricketer that makes reference to this as being the first time England had played one-day cricket with that profile of player, but also a culture of no fear, which was definitely created by Adam and is now being mirrored by in a much more sustained way by Owen Morgan. Because if you're going to play that no fear cricket, you've got to have a culture in the dressing room that actually, if you do fail, it's not, you're not going to get dropped straight away, that you actually keep playing the same way, because that suits the team. And certainly that culture does exist in the way that England play. And that makes them such a threat. Because if you were in the opposition and you looked at the batting order, you would think, well, how many more batsmen are coming in this team? Because they can all bat. Then you've got two You've got a number of bowlers who bowl over 90 miles an hour. You have the mystery spin that you want. So they've got all the bases covered, really.
Just take a step back with that, David. You've provoked my thought. So your belief is, as a selector, I'll talk generally now, the player's been selected for his first test. So it's Adam Hollier. And he goes in the side. He has a duck, 2 ducks in that match.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts as to that next match? Are you considering not making him play the next match? Or is it, how do you approach that generally? Or is it a decision you make based on?
I think I've already said on this that it's much easier to assess a bowler. You know, the if I was bowling and I bowled a long off and it got hit out of the ground, which happened quite often, I've still got the ball in my hand for the next ball. You know, there's so many things that play in getting somebody out as a batsman. You know, you could be run out, it could be not a very good decision. Those are now tending to be removed with VAR or the equivalent. I just think it's very hard to assess batting. So I think you subconsciously tend to give a batsman a bit more, you know, that I think for the Indians, and I know he's a fantastic player because I've seen him score lots of runs. If you were talking about Rahul after three games, you would have thought that he's really having a struggle. Should we just stand him down for a game? But they kept on playing him. Not that
lots of good batters there are lots of good batters. Hashim Amla, I think, at the start of his Test career was woeful. I think he was started. I think if you look at his start of his Test career, Amla, he was literally a laughing stock, and then something clicked or worked out. Steve Waugh was another one. I think Steve Waugh took 28 innings to get 100 in Test cricket, or 50, or there's some mad stat.
They did stand him down for a bit, Chris.
Yeah,
I think he had to work out how he was going to play.
But it just shows how you've got to stick with the good players, because they all come good. Any batter can get a good ball. Look at Kohli in the Test series, one of the best players ever. Got a really good ball from Moeen Ali, got bowled. It just happens. Like, it's just one of those things whereas bowling is different, because you're bowling. You can tell. I agree with Grab that the best bats in the world all get noughts, and that's because it's the nature of the beast, and that's the game.
The most telling evidence, Chris, is that actually as selected, somebody gets a really bad 30 because he's been in the crease long enough for you to make an assessment of his ability. Yeah. If he has it off pole, knocked out first ball, you don't know whether he's good or bad. Really.
Yeah.
So you're quite right, but I think that. I think to answer the question, Norman, I learned that actually if you can do it, you should give batsmen, a bit of leeway to they don't suddenly become bad overnight. I do think that actually there is more focus on a batsman's technique than there is on a bowler. So, the way that suddenly you'd have Jeffrey Boycott saying, well, you shouldn't be doing this, shouldn't be doing that, or whatever. And that is really difficult for a young guy to ignore, because somebody will tell him. That is one of the great mysteries of the world, that professional sportsmen turn around and say, I don't read the papers. Yeah. I'm afraid to say I don't think that happens. there's other ways of you finding out. So...
Well, I mean, the very fact that someone like Ashwin is on his own YouTube channel every day, and he could have a barrage of people knocking his performance that he's made on that day, leaves him very exposed. Although he's a great player, I've got no doubt, but it's something they're allowing someone to test with fire there, I think, or play with fire. As far as
the social media thing is something that they have to. Well, I think the only thing you can do, Norman, because we do live in democracies, is to explain to young people, even the area that I was working, like academies, the dangers of social media. That that not everybody's going to be on social media say how wonderful you are. So if you can deal with both, praise and criticism, fine. So, but somehow you've got to have I don't know how it's achieved, some sort of filter that removes the abusive bit. If it's I've got arch files of letters written to me as chairman selectors, and they'd already been sifted at Lords. So if they've got no name and address, no telephone number, and they're abusive, they're just thrown in the bin. So everything else, I said, give it to me, all right, and I'll respond. So the first bloke I had a letter, and it was pretty on there, abusive. Normally centering on a very sensitive area for me, because I've never played Test match cricket. So it normally starts off with the line. One, you were selected on a rebel tour, so you know why you picking the England team. Two, you've never played for England, so how can you judge a good player? And my response to the second one, well, I bowled at a good enough players to know which ones are good and which ones are bad. But this, going back to one of the first letters, not the very first one, was to say, being critical of the team selection or whatever. And I rang up and was going to be on the offensive. And then it became very clear within 30 seconds of the phone call. This guy was a youngish man, mid-20s, paralysed through a road accident, was not going to be able to walk again for the rest of his life. And his whole life was based around watching sport on TV. So he should have to be able to have the view. And he also should have a response because he cares. Anybody who writes cares about, or whatever, cares about the team that they're watching. So as a result of that, I sort of like flipped it slightly on his head. When we had a selection meeting, I used to ring him and say, "What do you think?" So we became the best of friends in the period of time that I was a selector.
That's excellent. It's very refreshing to hear that. Yeah. I mean, even with this channel, and I mean, Chris, myself, Aparna, Pretty, we've all had comments on occasions which are not perfect. But actually, what YouTube's really good about is they actually do vet them. Because I only posted one today, and there was a lot of. I saw the comment, but it didn't get posted to the overall set of comments, and it was expletives galore. And I think YouTube are becoming very sophisticated in vetting out comments which are derogatory, which is great.
Well, I would imagine, Pretty, in India, the comments, the people who communicate with their observations can get quite emotional about it all. Particularly in India, don't win.
I think the best and the worst trolls in the world are Indians. The most creative ones, also the most hostile ones too.
But they care. That's the reason.
No, they care. They're we're very emotional people.
Yeah.
But I think the trick to any sort of comment is if it's not if it's derogatory or hurtful, the best thing for us all to do is just to ignore it, not give it any time, and more importantly, not delete the person or block the person. Let them be there, because eventually, when they realise we're ignoring their comment, they'll either change or go. And that's, I'm happy for that. I'm not worried.
But I think when I'm talking to younger players, Norman, don't try and hoodwink at the world by saying you don't follow the press or don't read a paper or anything like that. Just try to teach them to treat success and disappointments equally. Yes. And if you can do that, then you're halfway to, being sane for the whole of your careers.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. Look, David, you order. Have you written a book about your selection process or the way to handle it? Have you written a book?
No, not really. But I was up until before Christmas, I was still an employee of ECB, Norman. So, but that's come to an end. So that avenue, in terms of either my experiences, reflections, or whatever, I just have a slight issue having read books, whether they be Duncan Fletcher, Nasser Hussain, or people that I was directly involved in when I was chairman selectors. I could draw the conclusion: why let the truth get in the way of a good story? Because some of their reflections are on a different planet, basically. And I don't want to go down that route. And I'm not saying that I'll be absolutely perfect, but I think there's something about if you're involved in a confidential meeting and then you reproduce the content of that meeting, is that actually morally what you should be doing?
I totally agree.
Yeah.
And then if you go to a publisher, they basically, their parameters is, we want to know 10 things that the world doesn't know.
Right. But that's one, your aspect of telling the story of your experience, as opposed to a somewhat not clinical, but a somewhat philosophical approach to the way they could handle good and bad criticism. What you've just said, that's extremely interesting to me, because that's a great learning tool for someone new or even somewhat experienced at having that limelight and being aware of what criticism should be taken as. positive and somewhat negative, but that balance between understanding that you'll be doing well or doing badly, doing not so well, not doing not so badly. But the reality is, I prefer to know when there's very little being said about me, I'm more worried because there's a certain amount of apathy of what you're doing.
I think people are. I didn't. Whether I could have played at a higher level or I'm not sure. But one of the things that stood against me is that I had no confidence in my own ability. But that was morely based off the pitch than on it. Once I was on it, I was fine. My mind worked in a really negative way. That actually, I don't think I'm good enough to be playing, or, how am I going to bowl to Viv Richards for a whole day, or whatever, which was a challenge, even when I was on the pitch. So yeah, it is a mental thing. So there is. So therefore, my sort of selection process, I'm sure lots of people do the same thing, as time went on, was more driven by the quality of the person than actually runs and wickets, because the quality of the person could tell you that actually if things start to go wrong, do they have the strength of character to overcome them?
It's true.
Very true. Chris, could I get you, while we're talking, which you're very good at, to look through the comments and just pick out ones which you think are worth talking about?
Yep.
Because there's some that...
Do you think the Indian team will change
today?
Yeah.
Bringing one of the fans into the chat. Well, is that what you're saying?
No.
He said, "Do you think
changes to the Indian team
just changes
today
to the Indian
Absolutely.
team? Or is it like this when the gaps are so short that actually you keep playing the same team because nobody's actually practiced or anything like that? The longer it goes on, does that limit the opportunity to change?
No, they've made a number of changes, right? The second test, third test.
No, just in this one-day series. Because, for instance, Axar Patel played the first one, has disappeared off the planet. The young kid who opened the batting, all right, he's been injured, so that would explain that. So just interesting how that in a compressed series like this, you don't really necessarily have any room for change, really. As long as they're fit, you would try and stick by the same team. That Rahul sort of argument pretty was the same thing. It was great that they selected him for him as an individual, but it was certainly indicating the lowness of the scores and the way that he got out. And actually, somebody would say, actually, we have other options. Why don't we go down that route? Which they chose not to do.
Actually, just on that point, David, and what I wanted to add earlier was, when a player gets out for low scores for a match or two when they've been selected, it's a matter of an element of perseverance, because to give them a chance to actually settle and flourish. But I also think it's what you just said there, where the selection of the shot that they got out on can be very indicative of whether they're
well, if they've got a scrambled mind and whatever, it's like, I think
the way that
it's a bit like Daryl Cunningham playing against Shane Warne every single test match. Now, he would not get a run. And actually, it's a bit like Rana facing Graham Swan. By the time that finished, he was a walking wicket, sadly for him. And you could tell him in his body language, he didn't have a clue how to play him. Swan is a fantastic bowler and a wicket to spin. So I think there are a few factors that you've got to put in. So, but it's just interesting to see how the how the sides are being constructed into having as much batting, and that the Indians, and I've always been, as a bowler in limited overs, always very keen on having 6 bowlers personally, or as a captain, just in case my wheels came off in the match. And it looks at the Indian team, there is nobody else to bowl. I'm sure that somebody could bowl if somebody got carted around the park, but it's quite high risk strategy these days to just go in with 5 bowlers.
We spoke quite a bit about that, and I think in the World Cup that India will go with the 6 options just because Jadeja will come back in. I think my thoughts are, David, is that they know what their bowling attack will be. They know that Bumrah's going to be back. They know Jadeja's going to be back. So I think they're just trying to work out exactly what's their best batting lineup and who's going to fit in where. And I think that's why they're going with the extra batter in the series. That's my thoughts. I'd be staggered if we come to the World Cup and there isn't 6 bowling options in the Indian side, because I just don't think I don't think you can risk Sundar and Hardik in there as having to bowl 4 overs. I think if they have the option as a 6th bowler, then it's a bit much different pressure. But no, I am.
It's quite interesting is that Hardik has never bowled 4 overs, but actually the pressure that he knows he's got to bowl the 4 overs has actually been quite a positive reaction with him, because his figures have been really good.
Yeah, he's
that's true.
I still think that they wouldn't want to have to rely on it. Like the other day, I think that India nearly cost themselves the game because of it, because Sundar was clearly having an off day. There was a bit of dew about, and England clearly set a chase up to target him, and he bowled 4 overs for 52. If they had a Jadeja in the side, then Sundar bowls 1 over, Jadeja bowls 3 overs for 20, game over much earlier. So it just gives you that flexibility. Look at England, Curran and Stokes and Jordan are probably the 5th bowler between them, and they sort of rotate round depending on the pitch, depending on the conditions, depending on who's bowling well, depending on who's batting. So it just gives a little bit more flexibility.
But it is actually quite if you looked it through the eyes of the bowler, Chris, it actually is quite an interesting thing. When you know you've got to bowl, all right, when you walk on the pitch and you know you've got to bowl 4 overs, mentally you prepare yourself to do it. If you are one of 7, then you're not quite sure. So, suddenly the ball... And the game is a quick game. You can't hang around and have a team meeting, decide who's going to bowl. Yeah. And another matter, Norman, we played 40-over cricket. Chris will relate to this when we play in the UK. And Gloucestershire were hopeless, all right? So we worked up to the conclusion that actually the opposition were lining up the bowlers. So what we would do is to play a game against Kent, and everybody had a piece of paper in their pockets with numbers on it, and they would bowl a maximum of 2 over spells. The only downside is that actually you had to get loose for these 2 over spells. Yeah. So we went for about 250, which was a massive score in those days. So that plan didn't work either. So.
Oh, look, I'm so glad you're here, David, because you bring in another dimension that we could never appreciate. I mean, Chris, Pretty, myself, Papana, we've all done our bit to supply information, but your efforts, David, are just phenomenal. Thank you very much for what you're saying. I think what is important to me is that
I'm just conscious that Pretty not say anything. I'm just hogging her airtime. So.
David, no one would say that, I'm sure. We're a bit, I think, if I'm being honest, a bit in awe of you, because you know so much of, not only about cricket, but about aspects of cricket that we probably wouldn't be privileged to be able to get access to. And that's a treat. And that's why
I've enjoyed the experience.
Well, you're calm about it. I wish I was as calm as you when I lost the screen earlier on, but that's right. There was a few. Yeah. I became very much Jeff Thompson-like there for a couple of minutes.
You did.
No.
Well, not pretty. Hopefully,
you'd phoned me at various stages over the last 4 days of watching the racing at Cheltenham, I would not have been that calm.
So your results didn't go your way, did they?
Well, actually, on
the first couple of days, it should have done.
Well, no. Unfortunately, Chris, they had very big odds-on favourites that all won.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The bookies were taking a whack, especially if you got in on the anti-post. If you got on the anti-post, you'd have made some money.
But it became very evident that the Irish contingent were way better than England. So,
which is often
and also,
the case.
Which was great, is that they had a female jockey, Norman, who swept the board. She actually,
really?
At one stage, had won more races on her own than the whole of the English contingent. So,
amazing.
And it's just up the road from me, Cheltenham. So it's
okay.
It's a great sporting occasion.
Just quickly, Chris, if Dawood Malan was not to play, would you say Joe Root would come in to fill his spot?
Not on the 2020 side, I don't think so. They've got. I imagine that Ben Stokes would probably shift up the order to maybe go in at 3, or Bairstow to 3, maybe Stokes to 4. and then you'd have a Sam Billings would come in, Liam Livingston, one of those guys. I would imagine is how they would look at it. I think they're quite keen on Sam Billings playing. He got 100 in a one-day game against the Australians last year, so they've got a very deep squad, and they've got guys that I wouldn't have Joe Root. I don't think I'd have Joe Root in my 2020 side for England. I'd have him on my one-day side. I'd probably have him in my 2020 squad. But
I probably meant more ODIs, to be honest. But
yeah, no, he would be in there for. I'm pretty sure that if he would be in an ODI squad anyway. He was in the World Cup side that won. So, they just got a theory. They're just sticking to it. I would still like to see Hales back in the mix for the World 2020 and open him and Roy. Maybe back Butler at 3 or Stokes at 3, something like that, and have Butler, Morgan, Stokes in the middle order. Not saying I'll drop Milan. It's tricky because he's done so well. He's averages 50 in 2020 internationals. He's got 9 50s in 23 games. Consistently, it's been ridiculous how good he's been. So, it's a tough one.
Yeah. All right. Guys, just confirming, I'm not saying there is. We had one fellow said there was an audio problem that they couldn't hear. Just a few of you, Rishikesh Patel, the Nemo, just let me know whether you're here. About Music Harmony, you're pretty good. Let me know whether you're hearing this, because I'm just making doubly sure, as we had audio problems earlier. Just Music Harmony, can you just bang out everything's fine? All right. Natarajan.
I think it's fine. People would say if you can.
Oh, they have. So Natarajan, is he a chance, Chris?
I don't know. I've no clue. Why would you bring him in if he's been fit for one game?
No, I'm sorry. I'm referring to the ODIs more. Sorry, my apologies.
Oh, potentially. I don't know enough about. I know he's obviously come onto the scene quite quickly, so out of nowhere, really, hasn't he? But I'm sure if he's fit and he's match fit, they'll want to have a look at these guys, won't they? So Bumrah's not there, Shami's not there, so they've got a chance to rotate and have a look at some guys and just see what they're made of. So.
Well, this is a critical match to win a series at the T20 level. I don't think they'll do too much that. You're right. It'll happen probably in the ODI, potentially more, because there isn't an ODI World Cup, so they've got less to be concerned about there, I guess. They can probably make a go of it. But yeah, this is. I'm sorry. We in fact, not so much David, but Chris and I'm we all said 3-2, didn't we? We didn't say we said 2-2 leading into a third 3 victory. So yeah, this is going to we've pretty much.
I was just trying to be patriotic.
We said 3-2, but either way, I think I said India, and maybe Chris said maybe England. Yeah.
I think I said whoever wins 3-2 in the 2020s, the other team will win 2-1 in the one days. I think it'll be one series each, right. If that makes sense. I think that they're very close.
The only change I see in the Indian side, I really think that I can see them dropping Rahul for Kishan. And honestly, there's actually a lot of talk that Kohli might not play if he's not 100%. And if that happens, then Rahul will be in. So those are the scenarios.
So you mean
they make that change?
So you mean Virat is not fit because of what happened?
Yeah, I think what he had was very minor, and he mentioned in the post-game ceremony that he has a day and a half to recover, and that's plenty time for him to do that. But he did mention that there was a cramp or something like that. That's why he had to go off. So, but I think he's had enough time. I think he's fine. Most likely he will play.
I think Music Harmony is just that Kishan, his so-called nickel may be more worse than that. There was some signs that it was worse than that, so he may not be able to come back in if that is true. Also, we've got a fair bit of discussion happening about Kohli, as you just said. Mm-hmm. And Barnstead Boyd, a certain well-known person to us also, the team chasing will win today.
Oh.
Which implies that the team winning the toss and electing to bowl, therefore chasing, will win the match. Okay. I think so.
I don't see that changing. I don't see that changing. I think that it's just a strategy that all sides like chasing, I think, in this day and age. I think that, 20 years ago, Grav will probably tell you that sides like to bat first, put runs on the board. But, I don't see, they won't change this unless there's something really weird with the pitch or they have a read on the wicket. But the dew factor and everything, it's not slam dunk that you win the toss and you win the game because sides are good enough to bat first. But it's certainly clearly an advantage, because otherwise why are they doing it if they don't think that it gives them an advantage? So I don't see India changing. They've picked Rahul in the one-day squad, which means that they have no intention on dropping him. I think if you were going to drop someone, you'd probably say, you know, why would you drop him here and then play him in the one-day squad if he's out of form? You'd say go back to your state, have some cricket, go and have a bat in the first-class game and get yourself back. But they're clearly going to stick with him, and he's in the one-day squad. So I don't see them changing for one game. I don't. Depends on Kohli's fitness, I guess. If Kishan maybe comes back in, but yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what they go with.
So another thing I should inform you about, I had a chat with Merv Richards about the Antigua Cricket Association, and Chris, I'm going to tell Simon this as well. We did yesterday. They're actually keen to have David, you involved in some way with Antigua.
Right.
Now, what I mean by that is,
well,
not so much right now, but
I'm very happy if you want me to go there.
Yeah.
Well,
see the airport,
well, people are watching the show, and they're what their comments were. They would love to be able to have more and more exposure to English cricket, Australian cricket too, but we're probably more geographically difficult to get to and from. But they've got clubs there. They've got a so-called Antigua Parish League, as well as their main top grade. A lot of the players are looking in the future to join up. I think the likes of Simon and his fledglings cricket will join, perhaps with tours there. And we may go as a band of merry commentators. Hopefully I can afford to help us all get there, or sponsors can. And that's my intention. Right. I don't think we're going to get that much money from membership. That's not going to quite work. But we're going to have plans of doing some, once COVID settles, expanding this.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, David? I was quite impressed.
Brilliant, yeah.
No, well, I had my benefit tour to Barbados. So my son announced that I think when he was much older, that he actually had been to Barbados 4 times before he was 4 years old. So it used to be the place for cricket tours for county players. So yeah,
I would argue Antigua's right up there now. Antigua's got some amazing hotel facilities, as well as logistics. On top of that, the relationship to the new grounds they've got, they've certainly jumped ahead.
Very good. I went there when before the last World Cup, England under 19s played West Indies at the Viv Richards Stadium, and actually Courtney Walsh, who was a former colleague of mine, now lives in Antigua. So because he's the coach of the women's team. So I got to meet him. So it was good. Yeah.
Norman, I need to head off in a sec.
All right.
Yeah, so do I. So
okay, that's okay. We're about to get a partner joining us.
What's your plan for the end? Are you doing one after the game, or
we are? I'll send you the link to that if you want to join.
Just send the links, and if I can do it, I'll let you know.
It's 4:15 my time, which is 5:15 your time. Is that right, Chris?
I would go more for 1/2 just because the other day it overran, didn't it? If the game runs its course, then 5:30, 4:45 is probably better. So,
all right, we'll probably look at 4:30, which is 5:30 p.m. your time. So I'll send you a link to that.
Shut up and let Pretty do some talking, because she's not doing anything.
Okay. Ask me some questions.
Yeah, no.
Well, I mean, if India's winning, don't worry. Pretty will be talking loud and clear if India wins, so we won't forget that.
No, I excuse me, that's rude. I talk regardless, all right? I have a lot to say. Or when I have a lot to say.
I'm going to play the tapes back, and I'm going to watch Aparna and Pretty gloating as much as Chris gloats. When
we don't gloat. We do. Well, I can only speak for myself. I don't gloat, all right? I just state the fact. There's a difference.
Well, there's nothing wrong with gloating, Chris.
But I don't do it. I don't need to, you know.
Oh, is that because they win all the time? Is that what you're saying?
Actually, before I do go, Pretty, can I ask you a question about Pune? Are they going to get crowds at Pune or not?
You know, I don't know. It's a different it's a different state to this stadium. This is happening in Gujarat. Pune is in Maharashtra. Completely different state government. They have different laws. You know, COVID and non-COVID. So I'll keep an eye out for. Will there be crowds or not?
Well, I've been to Pune a lot, actually, because
it's a beautiful city. Yeah,
it was used as a training camp for England, flying into Mumbai and then going there as an option to play. And actually, one of the first times I went there, the stadium was just in the process of being built and being opened for the IPL. So yeah, lovely place.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know either about the state's conditions. It is different, but I'd say it's unlikely anywhere at the moment. I think it's rampant in all states. It doesn't look good at the moment. India's going through a so-called third wave, is the way they're describing it, which means it's...
Yeah.
They
had 30 cases out of 30 million. That was the spike.
Is that right?
In India?
In that particular state, in Gujarat, I think. So, yeah. So well, these things are relative, you know.
Well, 30 or 30 doesn't sound very severe, does it? But they did react pretty quickly to it.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right, Chris. Yeah, so we'll see you after, Chris. Show after?
Yeah, I'll be after you. Ronak98 says India 39 cases. Yes, I'll be about afterwards anyway.
All right.
And I'll try
David,
and join.
I'll send you a link as well for that, David. Okay.
Perfect.
Splendid.
See you later, guys.
All right.
See you, Pretty.
Good luck. Bye, David. Nice to see you.
We're waiting on a partner. She said she was coming on 11:30. It's now 11:40. I'll just see what she should be on a second. She's had all sorts of problems with her computer.
Okay.
And I hope you don't think it's rude when I say that. I was not rude. I was joking.
No, but he was very sweet to notice that and say that.
Say what? David,
no, he just said no. I think he wanted me to engage more.
Oh well, it's not a problem. It's not a problem at all. I don't think.
I just have to jump in, you know. Yeah.
Well, David had a lot to say, and we're very lucky to have him on air. So
absolutely, I'm not. Again, it's not. It's. I mean, this could be the case on another episode as well. But no, it was interesting listening to him.
Oh, it's more than interesting. He's someone who's telling us things that we will not hear from anyone else, because no one else has the privilege of selecting a national side at all levels and also unselecting or dropping a player. It's one of the most dramatic roles anyway. It's the most privileged roles that you could ever have.
Yeah.
To not only be picked for a side, but the one picking the team, the overwhelming amount of responsibility to select a team at any level, but in particular at that level, is just beyond anything you can imagine. So I would envy that role.
Yeah.
Hi. Good timing. Good timing, because we've both David Graveney and Chris had to leave, which was good. That was planned from the start, so that worked out really well. And we've got a lot of time up our sleeves, not because of luxury, it's because it's important, because this match is extremely important. And we've spent a fair bit of time talking about the woes, or not the woes, the positive and negatives of England in regards to their team. And I'm still a bit shocked about what happens with Joe Root. Where is he? Is he physically in camp, or has he gone home? It doesn't look like he's gone home, because if Joe Root's gone home, the English press would have been all over it. Him arriving at the airport, him going to hotels, him in quarantine. And we've seen no evidence of that at all. In fact, he would have been a bit active on social media if that's the case too. So I'm assuming he's still there, which would mean that he's likely to be available for, I'm assuming, the ODIs. Seeing his batting average is over 50, and he's a captain of the Test side, and he's a prominent ODI player, he needs to be able to, be a part of the squad. A partner.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if he's but I think it would be in the news if he would have. So
yeah.
But I think he would be playing ODI as well. I mean, even if he's so that there are more chances that he should be there rather than just gone back to England.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. If he's not playing in the ODI, then he doesn't need to be in India right now.
Well, yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, you would imagine that and again, because we haven't seen a separate squad announced, means that that squad is the one greater squad. I think it's 20. I don't know the exact number. I'm going to guess that's 25.
It's only
plus.
A few days away. They should release it any day now.
But I mean, they've taken the consideration that it's one squad for all players. So therefore, that's what I'm getting at. The fact is that the India squad can change, because they're not all they're all in the same country. The quarantine situations will be different, whereas the England quarantine has already been created. They've got the bubble. You're either in it or out of it. They're not going to be able to bring someone in to the squad now because they'll have to wait 2 weeks before they can play. So they're in the squad. And Joe Root, I believe, and what we're hearing from David and Chris, and I've watched the reports very carefully, there's no sign of either of them, any report, sorry, showing him at home in quarantine, 20 from quarantine or anything. So he's there still. So that means he's a part of the one-day squad. Okay.
Yeah, but I agree with you, Norman, on that.
So Barnstead Boy, which is Chris's father, saying I'm being flanked by two beautiful women. He's right. And he obviously hasn't got an appointment to go to because he's still watching, which is good.
Okay, nice.
So Ray, where is Chris? Chris had to go. And David Graveney also had that. But mind you, they've been on on air for about 45 of that hour because we had a glitch at the beginning. You're lucky a part of your phone call, you didn't know it wasn't your fault, but when your phone call came through, for some reason my volume went post.
All right.
And it's not your fault, but
can you hear me? No? Can you hear me?
No. I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about 45 minutes ago, whenever you rang the first time.
Yeah.
I took your call and then I went back to air and my volume went totally. And I had to I had to go out.
Technical difficulties. I actually saw that, Norman. I saw that. I was watching the show and I was like, thank God, I'm not the only one with technical difficulties.
It was my mistake, absolutely. But it was the calamity of errors with losing volume. Anyway, the second time I lost volume again. But I worked out how now to do that. There's a certain location. We worked it out.
Yeah, but I heard Chris saying that, all right, so now Norman is gone. So now the panel can have some decent cricket conversation about cricket. So it would be beneficial for the show that you have, kept quite so often.
Yes, that's been noted. There'll be words with Chris after, don't worry.
No, he was just doing friendly banter.
I know. Okay. So someone's gone mad about the Hitman show. Well, that could well be today's case if Rohit Sharma actually does go crazy. I'm extremely excited because I think this is the moment when Virat Kohli and or Rohit Sharma have to break the shackles and absolutely go for it. And there's no experimentation or niggles or anything. I think if they're not fully fit and they're reasonably close to fitness and they're the best player, get on the field and let's see you perform because this is the closest they're going to get to a World Cup final and let's see them perform. There are no excuses. I don't want to hear anything about, that player's this, that player's that. This is the time. I mean, India proved it last game by winning from a position where they were meant to lose.
Absolutely.
Really, people were telling me they were switching off once the toss was given. Well, India actually defied that by actually winning. And I think, if I'm being really, really honest with you, probably don't want to say it in front of David and Chris, I think India are going to, honestly, India are going to thump England today. I think they're.
I get that feeling too.
I think India's going to wipe the floor with them. I reckon there's going to be a huge victory, and we're going to see unprecedented play. And I think I was on an earlier call with some people I knew about it, and they said they were all. I didn't prompt them at all. Virat Kohli will score his first 100. He'll score more than 50. Virat Kohli. I'm excited because I reckon this is when Virat Kohli is going to rev up his speedometer and go, right, I'm going to take them apart. And I really think England will be in for a hell of a shock.
Well, I can't wait to see that. I hope they go for it. Whether Sharma, Kohli, honestly, anyone. But if it's King Kohli, that's great. He's like showing the world why he's the best.
What do you think, Apart?
Yeah, I would say, Indian team which did not have the depth factor earlier to attack, but throughout this whole game, they've evolved, went through different situations, and find itself that X factor with the emergency, obviously with the emergency entrance of that Ishan, Kumar, and Sky, and because of that, the England bowlers were put back, and Indian batting lineup was more able to perform in a way that they have turned around this whole series, even in Australia and now with England. So it's been quite incredible to watch, I must admit. And on the other hand, England, if you talk about them, number one batsman, David Malan. So today they would be expecting that he might show a bit more consistency with his bat. But altogether, like this whole series has turned out, I think India would just take the cake. The last slice at the very last over, sort of a very close game. I can see that happening, but India would take that slice definitely.
Oh, this is it's. I believe it's other than India thumping England by really performing out of their skin. That's why I sound hypocritical, but I don't think it's going to be a one-sided affair unless India do it. I don't think England are going to have a one-sided victory over India. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure of that, and I'm excited by this. I really am. This is just my craziness, but I would love to see Kohli and Rohit open or punt and someone open. I'd like to see aggression at the maximum, because with these so-called power plays, you know that the first overs the field is up, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So when the field is up, that means you can be overly attacking, and you can afford to be because the field is not there defending it. And I keep talking about, although it's an ODI format, I don't know whether you've ever seen Jayasuriya and Kalariswaran play for the first time in ODI together. One was a keeper, one was not an opener, maybe a first or second drop bat. They both went out there and absolutely murdered sides early on. They were 100 after 10 overs or something ridiculous. And that actually led to Sri Lanka winning the World Cup in '96 and actually set the scene for the rest of the world to take notice and have two attacking opening batsmen that go for it from ball one, not unlike Adam Gilchrist and the plethora of players since. They were the two that said, right, we're going to hit it over gully from the first ball, like a Sehwag did. But these guys, well, he did it more in Test cricket, but in the shorter form, those two showed the way in amazing. And that's why I'm suggesting, I know it might argue it's a risk, but those two, say Sharma and Kohli, or punt in that opening batting position. I know you've got Kishan doing it as well, but those sort of guys, I can back that they would fly. And one of those guys could get a century. And in fact, Kohli deserves to open once on occasion because he hasn't scored a century, and this is his moment. He bats early enough, he'll get 100.
Well, if there was any time for them to go for it, it would be today. And they have nothing to lose.
Yeah,
I think both the teams have nothing to lose, pretty much.
From that perspective, yeah.
Well, India has something to lose. They'll lose the series. They'll also lose the chance to be the number one in T20 in ICC rankings. So England already is, but then again, they're just defending, but India is going for the kill. Let's put it that way.
Well, we've got. You're in a very exciting spot. People will be envious of what you're about to do because you're about to hear the team and toss selections, which will be in 7 minutes' time.
I think the team would be, before the team comes out, Rohit Sharma, somewhere between K. Rahul or Ishan Kumar, and obviously Sky, Virat Kohli, definitely. Rishabh Pant and Shreyas Iyer. Who's left? Hardik Pandya, Washington Sundar, Thakur, Bhuvneshwar Kumar, and Rahul Chahar. That's what I say.
But you said KL Rahul as well as Kishan, so
no, one either.
One of them. That's right. I want.
I actually, just before you get to that, I'm pretty sure Ishan Kishan is still injured. Okay.
So that's not a goal.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's the way.
Well, KL Rahul has to be rested. The way he has been performing
I know. He is out of form. That is what you would call out of form, I think. 3 ducks and,
but he's given enough chances, and Virat Kohli and, the batting coach has still been on his side. I don't know why, but they see that potential, and he's still, he's got very high ranking in T20s in terms of making runs. So seeing all that, but everyone has their bad days. But when they do, he should, go out of the team, practice, and then work on his form and come back, rather than at this crucial time giving him a chance to perform while he's playing for a country who's fighting to be the number one in T20.
I get a feeling India's going to win a toss finally
today. Oh, this is the first time that Virat Kohli actually won, even after not winning the toss last match.
So the last match they lost the toss.
Test they won. Yeah. He won. India won the toss.
This is the first time.
They lost the last toss because they won
the match. Usually, Virat Kohli loses the toss. He doesn't win the match.
They've broken a shackle. They've broken the shackles last match, and the confidence is through this. England can no longer say, "Oh, we won the toss, hooray, we're going to win the match," because of that very fact. Okay, I'm just looking at the reports. Agarkar and Deep Dasgupta are talking about the pitch just as we speak. Deep Dasgupta, who's a part of this family, he's been on this program, as you know. I had an evening with him and David Graveney, and I speak to Deep through texts, and he's very open and incredible man. He'll be back.
He's on Sports Today. The one that we did the interview with.
Yeah. Oh, that's when we first met him. Remember, Parna? We had that show early on with him, and he was brilliant.
Yeah.
Although I cheekily said that Australia were going to be beaten by India, and he goes very sarcastic, "Oh, Norman, how could you say that? Australia the best team?" And then later, when India won, I was messaging him madly, going, "No," and he had a good laugh because he wasn't angry, but he was quite shocked. "Oh my God, Norman, how could you say that?" And I said, "Oh, really?" And not that I'm a guru or something, but it went that way, but. People, even that's the point. Sorry?
Pragyan Ojha.
Oh yeah, he's
I've
a
seen
character.
the banter between them.
Well, he's a character. He's quite a cheeky guy too. He obviously has been taking some great photos. My gosh, with Tendulkar and Brian Lara and we'll get Pragyan. I'll get Pragyan Ojha on the show. Hope when he's finished, but I'll get him quickly on the show. He's going to be very clear. By the way, Sri Lanka play India in that Legends match. That's happening, I believe, now as well. Have you guys got access to computers next year? Have you got to have a look?
No.
I think that's happening today as well. I think the match between Sri Lanka and India, look, my God, India's got, obviously, Tendulkar, the likes of Sehwag. Pragyan Ojha is also in that team. Monty's back, as you guys know. He's back in England, is that right? I think he's back in England. Because he's leaving from India. What do you guys do? Know whether he's still in India? I think he's heading back to England.
I think he still is, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think he still is. He was staying back a couple of weeks.
Yeah, but he's not far from going back. Is what I'm saying.
No, I think he said few weeks after because
he might still be in India right now.
Yeah, I think he is at the present, but I don't know when is he going to UK.
Okay. All right, so that match also has Jaya Surya in it. It has Rangana Herat. It's got Upal Taranga. So they're both pretty good. So I'm a bit shocked that England actually did lose and did make the final because they were really going well. But that particular event, Lisa Salake has been on the ways. She's been one of the presenters there. Actually, Harini Rana, who's been on our show, is hosting an event tonight with her. They're on a women's association meeting as we speak. Harini, who's been on the show, is doing that with Lisa at the moment, so they're also there. All right, we've got 2 minutes to go before the toss is being made.
Exciting! I'm like nervous.
I'll go for India losing the toss, I think.
So you're tossing a coin saying India's going to lose the toss, so to speak.
Well, how many times have won?
I say they'll win the toss, so let's see.
Come on, quick now.
Well, I think you. Okay, so Pan says they're going to win the toss.
Lose.
You said you're going to lose the toss, and I say I don't care whether they win or lose because they're going to win the match.
Yeah, well,
that's what I think as well. I'm extremely confident. The way it's almost like the timing as well. It's not just the way they played. The fact that they won against the grain, having lost the toss.
Yes.
To me, their mental strength has got to be through the roof now. So they're not going to fear the toss today.
Mm-hmm. True.
Because they've just proven one game earlier they can win. How good is that? Whereas England have not done that and haven't even looked like doing that. So, okay, I'm just looking. Our friend Kane Williamson is back, which worries me. No, I'm joking. Munchie's their pitch today was. So Munchie is telling us the pitch today was used in the second T20I. And do you see a part of the green? Do you see how Munchie's green?
Yeah.
That means he's a
member.
He's a member. Okay.
Whoa! How many members?
And also earlier we had someone earlier. I think it was James Dean, and not the real James Dean, who's dead. James Dean has a super sticker, so they can actually put a super sticker on as a special sticker, which they pay for separately to be prominent. So there's some added additions. We're definitely going to have organised
can't
events.
see him green. Music harmony or
No, not music. There's a few. If you scroll back,
okay, the
Angel.
Munchie. Okay, it's got that thing in front of. Yeah, okay.
There's way back. There's one that's super. They call it the super sticker.
All right, that's cool.
I like it.
Yeah. Well, party. Oh, hello. We've got some information coming through. Let's have a look.
Here we go.
No, it's still not. It's just gone bang midnight here, which is bang half an hour out. So they're out there doing their toss. Yeah, so as I said, the one that was used was a proper. Okay,
India won that test, remember?
Yep, and that was a turn.
I mean the T20, yeah.
So we're waiting. We'll find out very shortly about the toss. Yeah, look, this is probably the most realistic rehearsal of a World Cup final that you'll get. And I know this might sound illogical, and if Chris was here, he's saying, "Oh, they won't change the batting," blah blah blah. But this is a moment where I actually would like to see them try and be bold. Imagine Virat Kohli opening and going it from the first ball. He could then score a big 100, as would Sharma, and I'll take out the factor of blooding Ishan Kishan or Sky or whomever. I'm a bit over that at the moment. I think, okay, they've done well, but let's get the real thing happening here. Let's get people who have shown it time and time again to perform on the big stage and take a rest from England. As I would even argue, you could see a Ben Stokes open for England in the right mindset with Roy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm doing a refresh of the screen.
You want to see a classic final?
See, I get they're a little bit slow coming out and doing. They must be a little bit. Okay, all right. Let's have a look here. No, because what I normally do is I get through on the India England. They send through the team sheets earlier. They haven't done that yet. Looks like we must be a bit delayed, everyone. So I think that's. It won't be.
I thought the pitch might be close to what it was in the last game.
Morgan calls right again. England chase again, which means England have won the toss, and that means that India will bat first. Sorry, India will bat first. England will chase. Now that happened exactly in the last match, and we know what happened there. So India are batting first. So that's interesting. We'll be seeing the team selections come out very shortly.
At least one of our predictions was right for the first time. Yeah, they're going to lose the toss and win the match.
I just hate the way the Cricket Info says England are going to chase again. Say that India are batting first. England chasing again. Okay, I get that, but that's not the correct way to say it. You say you won the toss and they elect to bat or bowl. You don't chase. They don't go, "Oh, we've elected to chase." That's bizarre. Okay, all right. So at this point, you would argue on paper that's an advantage for England. You would argue on paper that's an advantage for England, putting India in the bat. But we've already seen that's not been the case. It couldn't have been a better result in the last match, because that's just put India in a mindset, well, we've done it once, we can do it again. And I feel that that's going to be the case. I just wonder now if there's any bowling lineup change. We're not seeing any evidence of it. No, this is a bit unusual to have a toss and then no immediate reaction with the team selections. Let's see if so Anurag Karan says, "Best of luck, India. Bye, guys." Okay. He's not saying bye to India.
No.
Yeah, and Garrett Banker's making a good point there. Rahul, if he ends up getting selected, has to hit out or get out. There's no point in him mucking around or stuffing around.
I'm absolutely right with you. Yeah. He can't be a hindrance.
So cricket lover said, "Apani, you're on a winning streak tonight." I think that is true. You've come on and pretty much said that. I think that's a fairly good point. It'd be nice if we actually had a damn team selection here. Very unusual.
England is very lucky with the toss. They've won 4 out of the 5.
Oh, in Australia.
Yeah. Again, I think we talked about it. Well, it is luck, but luck's meant to be 50-50 with a toss. If you have 10 matches arguably you would have a okay. We've got some team selections coming through. I'm not sure whether that's Jason Roy and Josh Butler, Milan, Bairstow, Morgan, Stokes, Sam Curran, Chris Jordan, Joff Archer, Rashid and Wood. So it's the same team that England are putting forward, and I would expect that. So at this point in time, it looks as though we've got the same team for England. We're not seeing India just yet, I'm aware of. Oh, now we are going to see the Indian batting lineup is Sharma Kohli as captain, vice captain, Surya Kumar Yadav, the Sky, Rishabh Pant, Iyer, Pandya, Thakur, Washington Sundar. It's the same.
No Rahul. No Rahul.
Natarajan's being selected. Let's just see what that's happened. Okay, I now have the official team lists. I've just got them in front of me. We'll find it immediately. Yes, Natarajan has been put on the side.
And Rahul's dropped, right?
Let's have a look. I can't see any. KL Rahul's not on the side.
Okay, finally Amazing. They woke up to their senses.
So this is what Kohli has said. This is exact words of Kohli. No disappointment at the toss. It looks hard and better pitch as well. As a side, we understand what areas were to improve. Chasing comes naturally to us, second nature to us. We want to solidly bat first. We've made one change. Is this saying? So they've KL Rahul's out. They've added a bowler,
right,
rather than another batter.
Interesting.
So that effectively means that India have now got 6 bowlers. So very interesting. KL Rahul has missed out, and Natarajan has come in. Which I actually mentioned Natarajan earlier. You mentioned before Pretty Rahul being out, and I think Chris said he almost poo-pooed both of us. So we were both right.
He poo-pooed both of them. No, he did.
Well, I mentioned Natarajan instead of our group, and he made it clear. Oh no, that won't happen. No. Well, I'm afraid that was right. So, but England look to have got no changes. I'll just double check on that.
Yeah. I guess Kishan was not fit to play, or else he might have been instead of Natar. But I'm very happy with 6 bowlers because they were lacking in that department. And is he a fast pace?
Yeah, he's a fast bowler. He's left arm. He's different. He hasn't bowled all series, so that we know you can't argue that England will be used to playing against him. So that could be. And he's a good death bowler. He's a good Yorker bowler. He did very well in the Test match, which he came in. Yeah, so that's I think actually a brilliant change, actually.
Good selection,
Rahul, it's not a good sign that he was taken out and a bowler's put in his place. It's an interesting sign. That is interesting to me.
The pitch is going to be same as the previous match, so I'm not sure who said that the pitch is same to the second.
It was said. It was said it was one of the early pitches, but
it's the same pitch.
Yeah. Okay. So England are unchanged.
And that's Gupta saying it. So
I'm just trying to work out who's going to open the batting. That's my question for him, because if Rahul's not there, obviously Sharma's one.
Sharma and Kohli.
Well.
Well.
Unless Yadav is opening, unless he is, but that will mean that Kohli's going to be at least first drop, if not opening. And I'm going to take a stab here and say if Kohli opens, I'm applauding that no end if he opens. But he's going in first drop at the very least. At the very least, he's going in first drop. Well, we just don't know whether Iyer or Yadav will open. They could open with one of those two, or Kohli will open, or punt. I mean, this is getting even more intriguing now because we're not sure of anything. We'll be finding out the next 15 minutes or so. So yeah. All right, I'm just going to post these on my media. So, guys, I want you both to give me. Okay, I want you both to give me your summation about who's going to win this match and why. Having heard now that we've got Natarajan with his left arm bowling and one less batter, Rahul, who you could say was ineffective in terms of scores. Okay, Apana, you start.
Well, as I said, India coming from where they have definitely deserved to win because of the first T20 match. If you look at it, a huge difference to what in just 4 T20 matches. So I would say an Indian team which did not have that depth, and they have got that X factor now, which was required. Even Ishan is not in the team, which was a very plus add-on for the team, and obviously Sky. But playing in different situations, and Indian team has learned how to bat first and then be able to chase, do the fielding, and because they're not very comfortable with that, and that is something that they've worked on. Even Virat Kohli has said. So considering all that, I think India is in a very good position, both in confidence-wise, and everyone is in the form. So that would obviously is a plus point. And said that last match India won, so saying that England is bit in mentally in that pressure, whereas India would have that little bit confidence there. But obviously England, if comes back, they would have that sort of confidence in the T20 World Cup. But I don't see that happening again. So India deserve to win. Very honest. Not
All
being
right.
in India, not that perspective.
It's
And I think Preeti would agree with me. Come on, Preeti.
All right, I'll go.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, India has done very well. They've really proven themselves in this T20 series. They've come from behind to level it, and I do think that they deserve to win, just because it was more of an uphill battle actually to come to this point. I think they've fixed some of their bowling issues, because that was the one area where I think there was a void. So I'm happy to see them bringing in another bowler, and I'm also happy to see Rahul dropped. I was been saying this from the first game that just simply he's out of form and in the way, and there's far better players that could come in and do what needs to be done. It's going to be a cracker of a final. I think the dew will be a factor again. So there'll be a turn, I think, for the team that bats second. So I think England might regret this decision like they regretted it the last game. Let's see. I want to see some big scores. I hope this is not a low score. Over 200 would be good. Then you've got a match on your hands. Fans around the world will go crazy. So I am predicting India to win, and I think they'll win comfortably. Something tells me, and I'd like Kohli or Sharma to, get a 50 at least. And hey, if one of them gets 100, that's a big bonus. So yeah, go India.
Mm-hmm.
It is really. I agree with both of your sets of comments. I think that we've got an issue here that England haven't changed their team. Either that's extreme confidence, or that's the best they've got.
I think the second.
But I mean, I must admit, and India have been incredibly good with their timing of selection of players and the way they've done things to date. The fact is that they've been predominantly a spinning wicket. They've kept all their main bowlers, but they've added to it. And there was comment about having 6 bowlers. That's right. But Natarajan has not played in any of these games. The tests, the T20s, none of them. Okay, he was injured and was in quarantine, so he's delayed in coming back to the team. Does that imply that he would have been selected a lot earlier on if he was fit and ready? Is the question. He's come into what is the most important match of the series, and that is intriguing that they've done that.
Yeah, well, he made his debut last year, Norman, in Australia.
I know, I don't mean debut, but he hasn't played the series.
I know,
and he hasn't played
he
England.
has his debut last year, even with Australia. He was even played in Australia at a very crucial time. So I think that could play either way. Either it could go the opposite, and it's a drawback for Indian team to be bringing him in at the last minute, or it could actually be a surprise element for England.
He could be the next Akshar Patel, out of nowhere.
Well, the fact is that England probably are not used to playing against him, and out of any game that they need to do it, they need to do it tonight. So I think that's going to be intriguing. But how long have we got to go? We've got another few minutes before it starts.
Gupta, he said that the pitch is good for batting. So India is batting first, but whoever gets to chase, and it's a plus point for them, which is true. And having a extra bowler in the team instead of KL Rahul, that would help India at this present. If we see from where it's looking right now, India has lost the toss. They have to go first bat, and it would obviously England's got a bit of advantage because it's the pitch too bad. They would have advantage, both, be able to chase. So India needed that extra bowler. So I think it had fit out perfectly fine. Considering that, I think that might also help playing a big role in India winning this series and this 5th T20.
Well, you've both said it very well. I'm impressed with what you're saying. The only fact is that we haven't got Chris de Bag here. And
by the way, Norman, Malan has really underperformed this series. People say that he's the best T20 player out there. I wasn't impressed at all. In fact, there was talk of dropping him, and certainly at number 3, he's kind of blocking way too many balls, not making enough runs, stalling their run making, and he didn't do very well in the last game. That might have been his worst.
Yeah.
So
that's what I said. If he has shows some consistency with his bat, which was expected from KL Rahul as well, but he's dropped. They haven't changed their team, so let's see what he's got to bring on the table. Yeah. And if not, England has to really look forward to what they would like to do for the T20 World Cup. But he's a good batsman. I've seen him play, and he just needs some consistency with his bat to show him home.
Well, let's not forget this is the finals location. This is where the final played. What we're seeing here, patch selection-wise, whether there's different pitches or not, it's the way that they're looking at the approaches. It's pretty indicative. I actually think the Indian bowling lineup is more balanced with a left-arm fast bowler. I think that a batter like Stokes will be struggling a bit more because of that. I think it's a good selection. I just want to see. We've got 13 minutes before the match starts. I want to see whether, in fact, Sharma's opening. We're pretty sure of that. Whether it's going to be Iyer or Sky and Kohli. I just hope that Kohli doesn't stay at 4 and put both Iyer and Sky above him. I'd be disappointed if he does that. I don't think he'll do that. So I think Kohli's going in first drop. Or my bold prediction is that he opens. Wow. I would really, really like him to do that. And then if he wants to take hold of this match now at the beginning, they're batting first. He's the first person to go out there and gets on top early and takes them apart. But they have got Wooden and Archer bowling, yes.
Very good.
But I'm convinced that he's the man to do that. Rahul struggled against the sheer pace, but I think Kohli actually likes the sheer pace. And I think that could well be the best thing. We'll see. At least he's going to have to bat first drop now. He has to bat first drop. He can't allow himself not to be put up the order. He has to bat at first drop. Very, very exciting.
By the way, what exactly does the dew do? I mean, who does it benefit? Seems like it benefits the bowling team.
It does, because the ball becomes
heavier.
A little bit. Well, first of all, slippery. It actually doesn't exactly favour the fielders either, because the ball's very wet and it becomes slipperier and tends to skid. And that when you're batting, it tends to skid and become a little bit more difficult to handle. So the bowling side should benefit from that. Ironically, it would probably suit an Axar Patel with his straight, slow bowling. Whereas remember how in the Test matches you got balls to skid on, quite not because of dew, but just generally you got the ball to skid on, especially the pink ball. It would have suited someone like him to bowl that way. But Natarajan, they may well see him to be that solution, and I think he'll be very crucial. I can't. Well, the logic is that we were saying that it favours England, but I can't say that. Last game completely disproved that whole theory, and that's so fresh in the minds of the players. The main thing is India have to go through a really, really, really good batting start. They must not only not lose wickets, but they've got to score runs. They can't just fidget around. They could, but it's going to put more pressure on them. I don't think they're going to do that. I think Kohli's going to grab the match and open or first drop and literally tear them apart. I'm extremely excited by that. This is the day. If you want to see how good Kohli and Sharma are, this is the day that they're going to show it.
Let's see.
Well, hope you're right, Norman.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the more disappointing thing is that Rahul has been dropped. Now, I'm not saying he shouldn't have been dropped. I'm not saying he shouldn't. But the fact that they did it for the last game, have they covered their backsides by putting a bowler in as opposed to a batter? Had there been another batsman come in for his place, then that would have been direct slap in his face for his batting. But they put a bowler in. Maybe they can excuse that by saying, "Oh well, we need another bowler." Yeah, but it's very interesting. I think Simon Willis said in an earlier report about when they dropped the one that's easiest to drop with the less complication. He said that, and that was actually very correct. That match, that was actually that was Sky who was dropped. Hadn't faced the ball. He was dropped, but I think he's done well. And what would have happened if Kishan was around? Who would have gone in, Sky or Ishan? That would have been a bigger headache. So yeah, this is very impressive.
And Butler is the man to get out, by the way. He is playing so well. And the longer he stays in the game, England's chances of winning increases. He's phenomenal. Him and Roy, actually, they're excellent, right? They've been so good.
For sure.
And senior players are always hard to drop.
And Stokes, of course. Butler and Stokes, you have to target them. The Indian bowlers have to target them somehow and can't let them take the game away, because they are capable of doing that. They will do that.
So see, James Dean's got a super sticker there. Can you see that?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to find who James
Dean
Dean
is. Thing. So how many members you've got, Norman?
That's not something you should be talking about publicly.
Oh, come on.
It's a large number.
Your salary package.
Well, it hasn't gone. We haven't got thousands and thousands yet. It hasn't gone quite that far, but it's steadily building. And they're mostly people who our regulars are anyway, who are very keen on being a part of it. So I'm not worried at this stage. It'll develop once we start having specific offers. When we can start to travel, once they get sponsors on deck as well, which actually will put their paid advertisement on the screens, not just be the ones that come on randomly. And I'm trying to get. I've got a law firm today actually. Well, he's a mate of mine who's considering joining on, and that would allow us to travel and have sponsor people to go for events and have a commentary team. Obviously, good-looking people go first, so I'll go first. No, I'm joking.
Norman.
I don't think that's funny. I don't think that's funny at all. I think it's funny. I'm joking.
You should do stand-up. You're so funny.
Well, okay. All right. So the reality is we'll do that, okay? But only if you're good to me. If you're bad to me, then I'll have to just banish you.
Likewise, I agree.
Are you saying you're bad?
I'm a straight shooter.
Me too. I think we are all straight shooters.
I don't know too many women that are not straight shooters.
Bullshit, but I expect bullshit, but I don't accept it. That's the difference.
Right. Okay. And you're using your hands a lot there. So I always have a thought when you start to use your hands. Okay. All right, guys. We might fit. Would you want to wait until the beginning? No, we'll go. We better go.
We'll wait.
Let the audience watch the match. You know.
Okay. All right. So yet again, England have won the toss and elected to bowl. They're also going to go about having the team without any changes. And as I said, KL Rahul replaced by a bowler, Natarajan. Who would have said that before the match? I wouldn't have said that. Not the players, but the replacement factor. It is a bit of a strange one. And look, Rahul probably deserved to have a rest. Oh, well, he misses out, which is another word for sacked. It's not dropped. Okay, guys. Okay. This is England's best 11 versus 80% of India. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you very much for your commentary, guys. Thank you for your efforts, both Pretty and a part of it. Obviously, David and Chris were here earlier, and we've had Simon on as well. We'll talk post-game. I'm saying 4:15, which could be 4:30. We'll start getting ready at 4:15 for. I'm not sure, Rapani, you're ready for that. We'll see. Pretty, it'll be breakfast time for you. Yep. All right, guys. Now, Lakshmi Sharma says bye at the end. Where were you from the beginning?
I know.
All right. Okay. All right. All best. So it's Norman Kosnick saying goodbye from Eyes on Cricket Conversations, the Pretty Effect, you name it. We're all here. So I'll talk to you all soon again within a few hours. So let's enjoy the match.
Okay, go India.
Bye.
Namaste. Thank you.